Welcome to the Business of Platforms, a video podcast series where Vivaldi will be chatting with the world's leading marketers, thinkers, and innovators about the evolution of business and the exciting ways in which platforms are helping companies and brands deliver greater value.
Hello and welcome to the Business of Platforms podcast. I'm Jane Hovey, Head of Planning at Vivaldi, and I'm honoured to be joined today by Veronika Lovett. Veronika is a seasoned banker, the co-founder and CMO of Esme Loans. Asmay is a London-based company with an innovative approach, redefining business loans. She is responsible for the development and implementation of the fully integrated marketing strategy across the business. Veronika, thank you for being here. Can you tell us a bit more about Esme Loans for those who haven't come across it and the demand it meets for customers?
Sure. So Asmay is a digital lender. We offer unsecured loans to UK SMEs, so from as little as 10,000 right through to 150,000 from 1 to 5 years. We've been in the market for coming up to actually just over 2 years, predominantly focused on the limited company space, but delighted to say that earlier this year we've tested and are about to launch our sole trader proposition. Really the birth of Asmay as a concept and as a business came from the realization that, clearly digitalization is what everyone's talking about. Customers are a lot savvier, they've got much higher expectations, and we could see there was a clear pain point and frustration that was occurring amongst SMEs who were looking for an easy and a simple way of sourcing finance for their business. And what we actually saw is that everybody was quite comfortable getting a personal credit card and a personal form of finance, and they would do that online, no problem. But as soon as you approach the notion of a business loan, you kind of saw deer in headlights, fear. And actually, when we really dug deeper, we could see that, a vast amount of SMEs were turning to a form of personal loan to finance their business. Now, a lot of the time, that might not be the right thing to do for price or flexibility. And that was really kind of the moment of realization that there was a clear need in market to deliver a truly hassle-free and simple solution to the SMEs that would be fit for purpose. And here is Asmay today.
Wonderful, thank you. How does Asmay partner with the businesses it supports? What do you do things beyond the products you offer? And is there a network of bringing the small businesses together at all?
So at the moment, our core focus was actually to deliver a truly customer-centric proposition. So, and we do that in kind of actually delivering a truly seamless and simple offering. So, for example, we truly have a fully digitalized journey. So customers can apply anytime, online, on any device. It takes less than 10 minutes. It's completely paperless. They get a near instant decision. If they like the offer, they can e-sign online and the money will be with them in about 15 minutes. So actually what we're proposing to the market is, instead of coming in to speak to your bank manager and go through that very, very lengthy process, you can actually get the finance that you need, secure that decision, secure the money, and focus on what you really want to be focusing on, which is really running your business.
Brilliant. Enabling entrepreneurs as well.
Yes.
So how has your approach to digital transformation and growth evolved since you entered the market, since you first started working in financial services?
Sure. So I've been in banking, probably over 15 years now, and I can say that certainly in the last 4 or 5 years, the speed of change is we're lightning years away from where we were before. I think it's fair to say that not just in the financial services industry, everybody is talking about technology and innovation and really trying to do something in that space and really trying to innovate and bring new products and solutions to market. I think what I am observing is that some are still a little bit away from really cracking it. So I had a really interesting fact the other day that 60% of fintechs market on the concept of utilizing AI, artificial intelligence, in some way, shape or form. Actually, none of those really knew what it meant or were actually using it. And more so, when people market the concept of digital functionality, I think they are focusing on advertising and speaking about the technology and how clever it is, as opposed to actually realizing that technology is the enabler of the solution. So actually you should be thinking about embracing the agility and the innovation to bring fit for purpose solutions and bring the solutions to market that your customers really need and want. There also seems to be a bit of an obsession with speed. Everybody wants to be the fastest in certain elements or all elements of the journey, and sometimes I think you need to think about, again, is that really what your customer wants? I mean, if you're delivering pretty much real-time solutions, do your customers care whether it's milliseconds?
What other pain points are there today with digital transformation in the business?
So I think the other area that I think actually financial services and arguably the insurance market as well could do a little bit better, and that's not to offend anyone that's potentially in that space that's listening, is the legalese. So everyone talks about delivering simplicity and delivering helpful, useful content, but I think many still fall down on using overly lengthy language, and I think there's still some work to be done on really simplifying all those terms and conditions, and it can be done and it should be done, and I think everybody needs to be a lot more focused on delivering the right content at the right time, that is in a language that is understood by all, that is still not then dragged by that kind of the legalese notion that I think a lot of people do still fall down on, and I think we need to be better at that.
Yeah, simplified. I don't want to say no one reads the T's and C's, but there's probably a large amount of people who don't really understand it and get in trouble perhaps from not doing that, and the simplicity of language is so important there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. With the abundance of data at our fingertips today, and you've touched a bit on how you use that, how should we analyse it to find what's meaningful and apply it with purpose, either in Esme or across the whole sector, do you think?
That's a really good question. So, at Asmay we take a very customer-driven approach, and what we focus on is ensuring that, first of all, are we asking the right questions and are we looking for the right trends and behavioural insights that are surrounding what our customers are thinking, doing, and how they're behaving. Then it's around ensuring that we not only have that data, we can interpret it in the right way and drive meaningful insights to then take away the pain point or a problem that we are seeing that our customers are experiencing. I think everybody's talking about data at the moment. I think most acknowledge that data really is the richness and ensuring that you can obtain it, you can interrogate it, and use it to your advantage to really improve, be it your journeys, your proposition, is the key to success. But actually, a lot of the time you need to step back and think about asking that question, well, what is this data really telling me?
Yeah.
Is this actually important? And if it's not, then I shouldn't really be spending a lot of time trying to get deeper into this particular pillar of data stream, but focusing on actually what is the cause of the problem or the cause of the pain points, what is creating it, and in turn, what is it that we could do to innovate around that to eliminate it.
I remember when I first started in digital financial services, finding that more women were applying because in those days they felt more intimidated about going into the bank, and that was quite interesting in some of the digital products I was involved in launching, and it kind of enabled a different demographic to access certain financial products without fear or risk or things like that.
Yeah, and I think we also, or certainly I, almost underestimated the fear that there still exists towards getting a business loan, and some will be fearing it because of fear of rejection or previous historic bad experiences, or actually lack of full understanding of the full breadth of products that could be available to them and how simple and easy it could be to access some of those products. And I think that was an area that I certainly underestimated, and it meant that we've had to focus our, launch strategy around ensuring that we drive the right awareness and education around who we are, what we do, how it is that we can support the UK SME community, but also that we are a trusted lender. You know, we are very fortunate. Our parent, NatWest, is a very reputable brand. They've certainly helped us a lot along the way, but equally put us in an environment whereby we set up and grew very much like a startup. It was a handful of us in a very small room with very little time, let's be honest, to kind of get something off the ground, and an absolute passion and desire. And what we learned is we kind of had to face all the challenges that an SME would face. So I very much understand more now the pain points that a startup or a scaling business has, given that we're in scale mode at the moment ourselves. So we're very much designed for SMEs by an SME.
Brilliant. That's a lovely quote.
That should be the strapline.
That should be the strapline. There we go. Empathy. So how can financial services companies benefit from platform thinking? So what you perhaps heard when you heard Eric come and talk to us recently.
Sure. So, I mean, we know that customers are increasingly digitally savvy. They've got increasingly high expectations, rightfully so. And we also are, I think everyone's kind of aware that companies that can innovate, market at scale, use agility and tech are likely to succeed. We've seen that in many sort of very powerful brands. That's kind of how they did it. I think to just assume you can replicate that in the financial services or larger companies is not quite enough. Actually, when you think about it, a lot of these companies, now whether you're a financial services company or any other company, if you're a large business that's been established for a very long time, you will typically have legacy systems, somewhat historic or older processes in place. So you kind of have it's almost like a tangled knot. And actually the key is to untangle that and focus on investing in what I think the common word is intrapreneurship. So really unlock your core assets, invest in that innovative intrapreneurship thinking, and then commence your kind of building and more innovative-led strategies that way. But it's not, agility is difficult to achieve in very large organizations just by the nature of the beast.
Yep. Yes, I've seen it in many big banks. So, let's not talk about the big banks perhaps, or maybe they're doing this well, but what other businesses inspire you in this space? And they don't have to be financial services, from anywhere.
Overall, as consumer expectations are changing, the financial services industry really needs to take notice and really drive up the pace and awaken to that change a little bit quicker. For me, I always actually think that the best examples of brands and companies and propositions are really at the moment in the consumer and retail models. That's not to say there aren't brilliant ones like Asmay, as well as others in the financial services space. The deliveries and the Sky Scanners of this world really have and are doing a great job. And I think in any sector, there's a lot of learnings to take from that. And when you look at a financial services type industry and the products and the services, some still focus attention on thinking about what does their businesses want, but actually the purchaser and the buyer is an individual. So a lot of the focus that we think about is what does the business owner need? What does that individual really want, need? What are their points, and how can we solve for them at the right evolution stages of their business? So I think that's where learning from the consumer, more kind of lifestyle businesses is a real opportunity to actually take some of what they've done and bring that into the financial services space.
Lovely, thank you. So, seeing we are actually sat here in Adweek, London, are there any successful advertising strategies you've seen or used yourself even to bring new customers into a platform, particularly when you're just starting out, really?
So I think it's fair to say, Esme's only 2 years old. Sort of from day one, we've really taken on the approach for a very rapid test and learn strategy using multiple channels. I think what we have found successful is you always have to ensure you have the right mix of channels. There's no one channel, or at least I certainly haven't uncovered it, and would welcome some feedback and around maybe someone else has got the source to the recipe that I'm looking for. But I think it's actually about ensuring that you are very, very flexible. You can switch in and out of different forms of channels and mediums, but ensure that you've got the right message for the right person at the right time. And I'm sure I'm not saying anything that anyone doesn't know, but actually finding the technology and the data to deliver that and deliver that in a cost-efficient manner is really key.
Wonderful, thank you. So we like our listeners to get to know a little more and learn about you, the person, not just the business. And starting up such a big project like Esme is fantastic. So let's learn a bit more about you and your personal goals and interests. But first off, what makes marketing or business today exciting for you personally? What's exciting you?
For me, I think it's the speed of change is just lightning fast, and certainly in Asmay, no day is the same. What I thought I learned yesterday, I'm on to the next thing overnight, and I think that's what really keeps not just me but everybody on our toes. It's a highly flexible, highly energetic environment, and I think today in the financial service industry, with all the change and all the fintechs that are coming to market, as well as how quickly marketing strategies are adapting, having the privilege of fusing the two together and really growing Asmay and bringing the Asmay brand proposition to market is highly challenging, but equally very, very exciting and rewarding.
Never boring.
Never boring.
No, I can't wait to see what comes next. Is there one book you would recommend for everyone?
Not a cop-out answer, but apart from all the classics,
yeah.
I love reading biographies. So I think the two that have stood out for me was the Steve Jobs biography, only just to understand how someone like him achieved what he achieved, and the personality and who he really was. But actually, not even that much of a tennis buff, but if anyone's read Andre Agassi, I'm probably saying it wrong, which is even more embarrassing.
Agassi, I think.
Agassi, that's it. I found his book really fascinating, particularly actually finding out how he was focused and determined and how he eventually fell in love with tennis, but originally hated it. I've just given away the whole entire book. However, it really kind of highlighted the persistence that some people take, and there's a lot of learnings to take from that persistence and learning to love things and really unlocking a true passion. Certainly in my instance, I didn't wake up and think I'm going to start a lending business, but actually I unlocked my passion a little bit later on in my career, and I very much related. I mean, please don't think I hate lending, I don't, but it was just, I'd recommend that.
From your point of view, what's one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
I'd probably say to be more experimental in my career choices a little bit earlier on, but equally don't force it. Again, I didn't necessarily wake up or necessarily always strive to be scaling and running a startup scaling business. That sort of came a little bit later on to me with the opportunity, but I would say to be more open-minded to a career outside the more traditional route a little bit earlier on. But having said that, maybe if I wouldn't be here today.
Great advice for anyone starting out, or anyone mid-career who's going, what can I do? Let's think differently. Thank you. Before we go, what's the one thing our listeners should remember from today? What's the one thing, piece of advice or knowledge?
I would say always challenge the norm. So if you're listening and you are working in a larger or medium, and to be honest, even in a small organisation, always challenge the norm and the process, and always be very, very clear about what your customers want, and never ever assume that you know, because the minute you do, you are likely to be making mistakes.
Thank you so much. Well, really inspiring and really good to hear about your journey and the business you're setting up. That's all we've got time for today. Veronika, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us.